Hello, this is a review of the Harmony 1 Universal Remote from Logitech. I believe this is perhaps the best remote ever made for universal remotes. It is very comfortable in your hand. I really like that it has some molding on the back that makes it sit really nicely in your hand, so it's comfortable to just sit and hold. All of the buttons are fairly context sensitive, unlike some generic remotes and universal remotes where all the buttons feel the same. I love the feel of the buttons. The way that they press feels to have a nice click and a nice feel to them. Everything is very responsive and fast. Now, in terms of a universal remote, one of the best aspects of that is that every button on here is configurable. You can configure every last one of them for any device during any activity. So if you're watching a DVD, maybe you have some buttons mapped to your sound system, some to the DVD player, others to the TV. And of course there's defaults that would be recommended for you with some default mappings, but you can go in and actually tailor and custom choose every single button on here if you like. You might find that some buttons aren't currently being mapped, like perhaps maybe this little back button here isn't mapped to anything. Well, you can choose whatever you want. So when I'm watching something on my surround sound system, which the mute button is controlled here, sometimes my TV speakers are still on and it's trying to echo back the same sound. So I mapped this button to my TV mute so that I can separately mute that as well. It gives you a whole lot of flexibility to be able to go into the software and program it for anything that you would like. I absolutely love that aspect of it. I like that the remote is responsive, and you can even configure the timeout between sequences of button presses because it's going to want to choose the lowest common denominator for your particular sound system. Now, it thinks that it knows what the timings are depending on the vast database that it has for different devices. But you can also tailor customize it if you feel like it's not responsive as fast as the original remote was. For example, on my Tivo unit, I felt like the Tivo remote was perhaps ever so slightly faster, so I tinkered with the timings just a little bit to get a little bit better. The best thing about a universal remote like this is to have one remote to rule them all. And to do that, what you do is you use the touch screen here. You program it to have activities. So you don't just control one device at a time, although you can. You can see the devices menu here. I can toggle between and go see my individual devices and be able to pull up context sensitive that are just that device. But it's really about the activities that I have here. So what you do is you program activities, and all of these are customizable. You can make any activity and name it whatever you want. So I have watch TV, watch DVD, and play Xbox, along with more like TV plus surround sound versus the TV speakers, play Wii, and other things. So all you do is say, for example, watch TV. And then it starts turning on everything that it takes on your whole system to do that. Now, if you have a DVD player, it may be turning that on. If you're watching a DVD, turns on or off the surround sound system, and so on. And there we go. As far as it knows, it thinks it turned on the TV, changed the input source. So as you know, every TV nowadays has a gajillion different input sources, so that it's going to be working for the right, whether it's a DVD source or Tivo source. For example, let me go flip to TV. So you can see I've programmed different buttons here to help custom change to input to DVD or input to Xbox. And those have been nice to be able to toggle on the fly. And you can customize what's on every page of the soft buttons. So everything on the LCD is called a soft button. You can customize all of these, but you really honestly don't have to play much around with the devices menu. Just put everything here. So here's my Tivo menu button, different list buttons. But honestly, you don't really use soft buttons that much either. What you use are all of the hard context menu buttons, which is what I like to have here. So when you're just holding it in your hand, you want to be able to press menu to bring up this, or info, and here's your guide button, and exits, and you get a bunch of different choices so that it's everything's really sensitive in your hand, so you're not constantly having to lift and go look at the screen. Now, one of the other nice things about this is it's not just a little IR device. So it has a big IR panel on the front for this is your infrared light emitter that starts from here and goes all the way around. This little tab here is where you plug it into your computer. If you open that up, there's a little USB connection in there. But what you can do is hold the device like this, and you can look at the screen and still press buttons. You don't have to sit here, you might think, well, let me pick the button, point it at the device, then press. You actually can hold it like this because this is all in an emitting area here as well. So it has, I believe, 2 actual emitters in here so that it tries to be as powerful as it can to blast the largest radius that it can and hit your devices. To turn off your devices when you're done, you just simply hit a single power button and turn everything that you have on, turn it off. That's really nice. Another thing to mention is on the Harmony 1 remote is these menus are very, very responsive, and I love that fact here. Notice that the device menu button comes up really fast. I can toggle between the devices. Compared to the Harmony 900, when you press the devices button, there seems to be a delay between them. So I'll go back to my current activity. Another thing is that perhaps an imperfection of this remote is perhaps 2 things that might leave you wanting for more. However, I still think this is an awesome, awesome remote. And the other remote would bring some different drawbacks. Is there's no colored buttons that your traditional green, yellow, red, and blue. So you can make soft menu choices for those different buttons that you can see here. So many of you probably have DVRs that have these buttons by now, but you can put them in there. But otherwise, what I honestly do is I put the red button down here because I use red to delete a lot. So you can go ahead and program one of your buttons that you don't really use for much anything else, and by being able to custom configure anything, you can do that. And so that was nice. So let's give a quick contrast to the Harmony 900 remote that we see here. And notice this one does come with the 4 colored buttons on here. And the devices menu comes up more slowly. So if you find yourself accessing the device menu enough, it's actually a little bit annoying that it's a little bit slower to bring up those 2. Now the other thing is this is still an IR remote. You still have to actually point it at the device. Now like I said, it's got a wide blast radius, but you can still have to get it in the general direction. You can't have the remote pointing this way and the TV over there and expect it to find it unless it happens to bounce off the walls. Because that's infrared, which means direct line of sight, light emitting. That's where the Harmony 900 has an advantage. The Harmony 900 offers both the IR as well as radio frequency. Now with radio frequency, it can actually see through cabinets. Now the way it actually does that is it has its own radio transmitters. So RF is radio frequency. It transmits first to its own radio receivers, and then from the receivers there's actually little lines that you run to new infrared emitters that have more things like this, but on a tiny little wire that you can connect. So that's what the Harmony 900 buys you, that I'll cover in another review. The battery works great. I leave it off the base all the time, and then only when it tells me that it's time to charge on the upper right hand side, then I put it back on. I'm just trying to stretch my rechargeable batteries, so I only put it on when it actually complains, and I get a week or more off of the Harmony 1 under normal use. So this thing is as good as it was for 2 years ago when I bought it. It's a fast remote. I absolutely love this remote. I just wish that it had the 4 buttons, and gee, it would have been nice to have the RF on here, but that's what the 900 is about, and that brings its own set of imperfections as well. So this is the Harmony 1. I highly recommend it. Thank you for watching the review.